A manga series that I'd recommend to anyone. Is there such a thing? When I think of something that anyone would like, I automatically assume that it wouldn't be really that good. Soda crackers are for everyone, but they also taste like cardboard. So like, is there a point to having a series that's made for anyone? Would that manga be any good? Does it even exist? Well, yes, it does. And I can actually think of 5 manga series that I would easily recommend to almost any manga reader out there. And not only that, each of these series are super good and have tons of personality. I think it's important to clarify, however, that when I say these are manga I'd recommend to anyone, I don't necessarily mean they're my favorite manga. For example, Death Note is my favorite manga, but I still wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I tried, and I failed, and it hurt. But the series I'll be talking about in this video are some that I genuinely believe could be enjoyed by the majority of manga fans out there. Whether it's because they have a super unique premise, have fun storytelling methods, hold great themes, or even maybe because it's just so unrelatable that it becomes super relatable, precisely because no one relates to it. We're all in this together! But seriously, I'm confident that at the very least, one of these series will make you go, huh, neat. And you know what? I'll take it. Alright, let's do this thing. Before we get started though, I'd like to welcome you to MangAnalysis, where I do little reviews of the manga I've been reading. If you like what you see and would like to see more, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, maybe even leave a comment. Let's get a conversation going. The first manga series I'll be talking about today is Spy Family by Tetsuya Endo. Spy Family takes place in a fictional world where the East and West are waging a silent information war, and whoever gains the most information on the other may very well be the victor. This is where our main character, Twilight, comes in. He is, without a doubt, the best spy there is, and his next mission is to infiltrate the social circle of a politician. The social circle being an elite private school. First step, adopt a child to enter said school, and get himself a wife to be the mother of the child. In other words, be the perfect family, which he does, easily in fact. One problem though? Well, unknown to him is that the wife, Yor, is actually a secret assassin, and the child, Anya, is a telepath who can read minds. Oh, and they have a dog who can see into the future, I guess. It's endlessly amusing to see these 3 completely different people live their secret lives while trying to maintain the illusion that they're a real family. Together, they get in and out of immense trouble, yet on the other hand, truly do start to develop bonds that could easily well be just as real as what one would consider family. Anya especially starts to see these 2 as the only family she's ever had and perhaps will ever have. The bond they develop, even if built on numerous lies, feels very real and genuine. I've mentioned this in my Golden Kamui video, but humor is a weird thing to recommend to someone. Everyone has a different humor, and we all react differently to it. While Golden Kamui has a very specific type of humor, I find Spy Family to have a more universal type of funny. It's not specific, nor is it offensive, nor is it too elevated. It's just wholesome, good old humor akin to something you'd see in a comedy movie meant for your basic teenager, yet the parents watch it too and have a laugh as well. And the younger brother, who was also in the living room at the time, has a kick watching it too. The characters take everything really seriously, even the most ridiculous situations, especially the ridiculous situations, which keeps it really light while maintaining the illusion of high stakes. And you don't have to enjoy spy thrillers to get into this, because the whole spy thing, while present, doesn't saturate the story as much as it leads on. It's a wholesome family story with a side of spy and tons of great moments. Can't recommend this one enough. The second manga I'm going to be recommending today is Girl's Last Tour by Tsukumitsu. The series follows 2 girls, Yuri and Chito, as they navigate the ruins of a civilization after an unknown apocalypse. As they travel in their trusty vehicle, they seek food and supplies while surviving day to day. Yuri and Chito have tons of time to hold philosophical debates and chat about anything and everything. Throughout the series, you'll see them stumble upon relics of a bygone era, such as the art of fishing and farming, books, gadgets, pieces of art. Sometimes they'll even run into people and various creatures. What's really interesting to me about this series is how the 2 main characters are developed, in that they don't go through a ton of character development. If anything, they just sort of find out more about the world they used to be and the world they're surrounded by now. For sure, they find out things about themselves and manage to make it through tons of obstacles, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they develop, It felt like a real life sort of progression, as opposed to what you see normally in storytelling, where characters change drastically in what sometimes feels only like a few months. The strongest part of this series to me is the dialogue. Yuri and Cheeto are constantly getting into debates or big philosophical conversations about the state of the world and its outcome and how things got to be the way they are now. They often discuss things that we ourselves, people living in their past, have the answers to, because we're living in the society that they're only wondering about. For example, they'll sometimes try to imagine what humans could have done with cameras and what their purpose was, and it's interesting to see them come to all sorts of conclusions about their potential functions and the importance of one's daily life. While myself, having had a camera in my pocket for the last decade or so, am completely desensitized to its concept. Girls' Last Tour is not a story full of high stakes, nor does it offer flashy fighting scenes or try to take you to a faraway fantasy land, but it did remind me of all sorts of inner monologues I had with myself growing up, wondering about the world, always curious and asking tons of questions, because that's what this story is essentially about. Two girls discovering a world they know nothing about and constantly trying to learn about it, constantly asking questions. I think we've all been there, and some of us have managed to retain some of that sense of wonderment about the world, and if somehow you've lost that, perhaps this series will help you get it back. So, if you've seen my previous videos, you may know that I've covered two series that I strongly felt I could recommend to pretty much anyone. Since I've already done 2 full videos on each of these series, I'll keep their section in this video brief. If what I say here piques your interest though, I do recommend you go check out my full videos on them. Okay, the first of these 2 series is Girl from the Other Side by Nagabe. In a world where a wall was built to separate humans and cursed beings out of fear that the curse would spread, a young girl finds herself in the care of one of the said cursed beings. These 2 form a beautiful father-daughter relationship that is highly frowned upon by the rest of the populace. And by frowned upon, I mean they could be killed for it. Watching these 2 live and learn from another despite the misery around them has to be one of the best experiences I've ever had reading manga. It has mystery, a wonderful cast, gorgeous art, and really steps away from all your typical manga anime tropes and stereotypes to give off a truly unique piece of literature. I cannot recommend this enough. The second series is Blue Flag by Kaito. So while I recommended Spy Family because it's super not relatable, I'm recommending Blue Flag because it is so relatable. Seriously, if you've ever been to high school or are going to be going to high school eventually, which is virtually everyone, you'll be able to relate and appreciate this manga. It has some of the best, most realistic and honest dialogue I've ever read, and it also portrays the confusions of self-discovery, love, and sexuality, and the fear of growing up perfectly. It's a queer love story, yet the questions and obstacles these characters face are some we've all, or will all, go through at some point in our lives, and I truly feel like it nailed it on the head so well. Okay, now for the 5th and final manga series that I could see most manga readers enjoying. It's To Your Eternity by Yoshitoki Oima, who also wrote A Silent Voice. You may have heard of To Your Eternity because the anime came out recently and made quite a big impression on the anime community. To Your Eternity tells the tale of Fushi, a mysterious immortal being who can shapeshift into anything he touches, as well as create anything he touches. The story starts in a fictional medieval world and spans generations, eventually even centuries. Along the way, Fushi will make many friends and travel the world on a quest to rid the world of an evil force. The thing is, once his friends pass away, he can transform into them and use their abilities, sort of like what you'd see in a JRPG. So straight up, To Your Eternity has, I think, one of the best first volumes to a series I've ever read. The emotional investment this book was able to pull out of me is unreal. It's extremely powerful, and for that reason alone, I feel pretty good recommending it to almost any manga reader. The reason I think the series is fit for many people is because of how flexible it is. It hits so many different genres without ever feeling cheap or feeling like it's stretching itself too thin. There's some fantasy, adventure, romance, mystery, science fiction, horror, intrigue, thriller aspects, humor, violence, action, emotion, everything. And believe it or not, all of those are done really well. Whether they're only present to fill one character's arc, or whether it's a core piece of the story, everything is done exceedingly well. While I avoided talking about things I didn't like in other series, I will mention one thing for this one. The cast can be really hit or miss. One of the biggest parts of the story is Fushi making bonds and connections with people. The problem is, he's immortal and they're not. So the story goes through tons and tons of characters. I've said it before, a large cast, when handled properly, can be awesome. In this case, however, as necessary as it is, I don't think it works super well all of the time. The first characters that are introduced are great, there's plenty of time devoted to them and they actually have important parts to play in the story. But as time goes by, some feel like they were sort of just thrown in there. As the series progresses, the time accorded to these new characters feels lesser and lesser, yet they're still expected to hold the same amount of weight to the story, which just straight up doesn't work. Sometimes a character dies or leaves, and since they've made no impression, are left to be forgotten. In a story that's all about creating bonds and memories, I feel like that's a bit of a problem. Regardless, everything else is done really nicely. There are very few stories out there that manage to tell a tale this big with this sort of scale, and I still think it's absolutely worth the read, especially that first book. Oof, baby, it's excellent. To Your Eternity is a beautiful story that offers so much to its reader. Honestly, I'd probably recommend this to anyone who simply enjoyed reading anything akin to fantasy. I'm just so convinced that this series can offer something for just about anyone, including you! Alright, so there it is, 5 manga series that I think anyone could enjoy. Sure, they may not become your favorite new series, but I truly believe there's at least something in there for you. There's always going to be something comforting about 2 girls traveling the apocalypse, discussing the philosophical potential of the human race and its endless ability to wage war with itself, just like seeing a formidable spy try to save his country by orchestrating a fake marriage with a deadly assassin, and adopting a little girl who can read minds will always be amusing. So, I hope that at least one of these series piques your curiosity. If they do, make sure to go check them out. At the very least, read the first few chapters. You just might find yourself binging the whole series. And I don't know about you, but that's never a bad thing. Well, unless you're just about to go to bed and you're already super sleep deprived, and this binge leads into yet another all-nighter of reading in a rabbit hole of wiki searches and self-loathing. Why am I like this? I just want to sleep. Well, those are the 5 series I'd recommend to anyone. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did indeed enjoy it, consider subscribing. This was MangAnalysis, and I'll see you in the next one.